So, hello, fellow earthlings. And how did Carlos Mencia end up in this situation? That's what I wanted to talk about. I'm sure people have said that Robin Williams, he was a joke thief. They've said, is it Dennis Leary? They said that other people stolen jokes. Even Bill Cosby apparently says that he took something, starting material from George Carlin. So how come none of them ended up in the situation that Carlos Mencia ended up in? That's what I'm going to go into in a second. As usual, I am Earthling, yada yada yada. And you know what? I can't think of anything really interesting to talk about myself today. Anyway, ex-reservist. I have a master's in business administration. I did Latin dance. I did some gymnastics. I did some scouts, karate, stuff like that. Played tennis a bit. And that's me. Anyway, so how did Carlos Mencia ended up with such horrible repercussions as compared to Dane Cook even? I mean, I was looking at a video with Dane Cook, and he seemed to be, he's not out there the same way, but he seemed to be doing a lot better. I think he said that he spent so much time on MySpace building up his base, as you know, we've gotten from Trump as a term, that even after his thing, I guess, yes, he took a hit, he got blowback, but like a lot of people, even after his brother stole a bunch of his money, he still, even though he wasn't getting national attention, he seemed to have gotten back a lot of money in terms of getting people to come out and see him. And he seemed to be really grateful for that. And maybe Carlos did as well. You know, when he says that this thing is costing millions. Anyway, I'm talking too long. I think that the whole reason why this ended up being the way that it is because of the video that Joe Rogan took and put on the internet. That's one thing. Of course, Joe Rogan is, I don't know if he was immensely popular at that point, but because of his popularity now, you know, the Rogan effect, Carlos Mencia is going to have a lot of hate directed towards him because Joe Rogan believes that he is a joke thief. Provides, like, his evidence is weak. It's sad considering somebody, if this thing happened 7 years ago and Carlos Mencia has 33 years of comedy experience, that means that it would have been like 26 years at the time when things happened. Maybe I have to push it back further than that, but still, Carlos Mencia would have had like a lot of experience. It can't be that half of his material is stolen. That does not make any sense, because you would have, like Bill Cosby, dozens of people coming forward, like Harvey Weinstein, dozens of people coming forward, like Bernie Madoff, dozens of people coming forward with examples, with proof. So, you know, it seems really sad that people only point to these 3 or 4 things. But before that even, I think that part of the reason why, Joe Rogan gave it the push that it needed to really hit Carlos's career. But I think that it stemmed from the joke incident that he had, the disagreement that Carlos had with George Lopez. And George Lopez became good friends with Joe Rogan, as Carlos Mencia would have said. And once you plant an idea into someone's, you know, psyche, Joe Rogan was like that bulldog with a pant leg or with a bone. It was just all consuming, and that's where he took it. Now, at this point, you know, I used to feel bad that, you know, Joe Rogan was banned from the Comedy Store because he put that video out there. But I think he got what he deserved, honestly. as far as Mencia is saying, they adopted the Comedy Store, the comedians got together and adopted a thing where you're not supposed to film at the store, at the comedy place, because people are going to have their acts in, on these different variety shows, and as a result of that, you should not be filming there. And of course, even if there is filming that's going on, it should not be put on the internet for everybody to see. So, Joe Rogan has made the argument that nobody's protecting people from this joke thief, and I guess it's a similar thing, right? The idea is that you shouldn't record there because your material is going to be exposed, and this joke thief is stealing jokes from people, and these same people have to go and perform, and the material is being exposed. So I get that idea, but the whole idea to take it out, to expose Carlos like that, I think it was in bad taste. And I think that as Carlos has said, as other people have said, normally comedians keep it between each other. The plaintiff and the defendant, and they hash it out. And I guess that's where it started, in that George Lopez approached Carlos and said, "Hey, you said my joke." And Carlos was like, "This is like a generic joke. What are you talking about?" But I guess he was apologetic, "I'm sorry." And then George Lopez was like, "Well, you need to stop saying that joke. You can't use it anymore." And Mencia was like, "No, what are you talking about? I'm going to keep saying it anyway." So if you don't give the guy his respect, unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. He is going to turn into, instead of being a mentor, and well, maybe, I don't know how long both of them were in the business at the time, but definitely George Lopez got to have his TV show and everything, I think, long before Mencia. Maybe I'm wrong, I have to look that up. Yeah. So that's where I think it all started. And once you mess with someone like that, and they decide that they're going to talk to everybody, talk dirty to you, talk dirty about you to everybody, then I guess that's really the end of that. And especially if you're not someone who's down in the trenches, you don't drink, like Carlos Mencia says. He doesn't drink, he doesn't take drugs, because he was so afraid of what happened to other people that he didn't want to even think of that. Like he says, he goes straight directly from having a sip of wine to ending up giving people blowjobs or fellatio in order to get money to buy crack. So if you're not there, drinking and hanging out at the comedy club, if you're just coming, performing, and leaving, a lot of things are going to happen behind your back. And as I would have mentioned, I see what happened. I'm not the type of person to hang out or to congregate with large numbers of people as friends, and that has hurt me in many, many circles. Especially because I guess I don't have this sense of, oh, this person is powerful, I need to make sure what I say around them or what I do around them or whatever. I remember when I went to university, I was supposed to have a mentor, and one day my mentor said to me, because I was undecided, he said, "Next time, set another meeting, we're going to decide on a degree for you, and because you can't be undecided." And I did not want that. And I didn't know how to tell him that I didn't want it. So I just never went back, and he never spoke to me again after that. And as it turned out, he was in the computer science department, and I needed to get a job there at some point. And the stench of that, I did not even insult this guy. I just did not go back for any other meetings. He did not bring it up. He didn't say, "How come you didn't turn up?" He would just ignore me like we had never met, because I did not go to the meeting with him. It was amazing. you don't even have to insult somebody, and they can hate you for the rest of the time that they know you. So I completely understand how that happened. I remember I met the person who was in charge of the RAs, the residents, the halls, and I didn't know that that was the head of the person in charge of the dorms. So I just saw two ladies. One of them was the head of the dorms, and the other person was just her employee. And I did not give her, I guess, the respect and deference that she felt was appropriate. So when I went to become, to interview for the position of RA, I didn't get it. And I think that if I had given her, and you might say, well, why is it automatic? Just once I realized that she was the head of the halls, I was looking at her, but I realized that, whoops, from that first interaction where she felt that I didn't give her the deference that she needed, it was definitely something between us that was not positive. So when it came for me to interview for the position of RA, yeah, I was not really going to get it per se. And, I was looking this up. There's a quote that I have heard, which is that many a man's reputation will not be able to know his character if they meet in the street. Which is the idea is that your reputation and the real you, they're two separate, distinct things. And in every instance that I've heard George Lopez speak, and Patrice himself says it, he's like, Patrice, the comedian who's dead, that I spoke about in the last one, he was like, yeah, George is a likable guy, and I aside from this and da-da-da, and I've never, nowhere, even from the people who don't like him, I have not, what they have told me has never been something that I was like, oh my God, that's so horrible. One guy who was on Martin Maron's show was saying how one day he held some gathering, I guess, close to his house, and what's his name came up to him and whispered to him and said, I guess they had a relationship where Mencia was above him and the other guy was below, and he says that Mencia talked to him in confidence and said, listen, I know why you did this. You did this in order to get recognition for yada, yada, yada. But let me tell you, I'm still the biggest out here, just so you know. And yeah, that doesn't sound like, it doesn't sound like friendly, but at the same time, what? If this guy is your boss and this guy, you're an employee, and yeah, you know that you didn't plan it to do, you didn't plan this event for the reason that he's saying, okay, it doesn't sound like, he wants to be a friend, da 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 da, but at the same time, it doesn't sound like some kind of Iago Othello stuff. It does not sound as if, hey, this person is out to get you and they're going to bring down whatever it is that you have, that they're going to tear you down and talk shit about you behind your back and whatever else. As a matter of fact, as far as I know, Carlos Mencia could have been smiling when he was telling that to the guy. The guy didn't say. And a lot of people represent things in a negative way to say like, oh, look at what this person's doing. And when you take a closer look, things that seem to be nefarious are completely not in any way. So for example, when Carlos admits that he would go to shows just unannounced and maybe take up other people's time who were supposed to perform, and then he says, well, yeah, this was done to me. Other people, more famous people, would come into the club at a time when I was supposed to perform, and they would take up my time and I wouldn't get to perform. And you look at that and you say, well, just because somebody did it to you, it doesn't mean that you have to pass on negativity, you know? But when he says it, he's like, okay, well, you know, when I did that, yeah, I definitely abused it. And, you know, just because it was done to me, I definitely. So he stopped. He stopped doing it. And he's like, yeah, you know, I guess that was just me being an asshole. But sometimes I did it on purpose to people who were just not nice to me. And the thing about it is that even though he's saying, well, maybe that's me just being an asshole, I, as an adult, I get that people are thoughtless. And I also get that just because somebody's thoughtless, it doesn't mean that they are wicked per se. It's just they are thoughtless. They didn't think. And if something is brought to their attention afterwards and they change their path, they adopt their a new way of being, you accept, oh wow, yes, I wasn't being the best person then. I recognize that there's a fault in what I was doing. Let me do something different. But even in all of that, Carlos actually has a very good rationale when you think of it for what he was doing, bumping people. He said that, you know, when you reach at a particular point, it's about flexibility. You know, the clubs would ask him, they would be like, are you definitely coming tonight? Are you definitely coming to perform? And he would be like, well, I'm not really sure. So like, listen, we can't put your name up if it is that you aren't 100% going to be here. So if you think you're going to come, you just come. You don't have to tell us in advance. You just come. He actually had a conversation with the clubs about that. It's not like he just, hey, you know, people used to do it. No, he's like, listen, if I tell my wife that we're going to go to perform, I'm going to go to perform, we're going out to this particular club and I'm going to perform, she might be like, no, you're spending too much time there, I'm not going to do it. So he has to be flexible given, you know, I guess his position, whatever the case was. So he would just turn up. He did what the clubs told him. He's taking that blame completely onto himself, but he's saying essentially, I did what the clubs told me. They said, if you're coming, we will definitely, you know, put your name up, but we can't announce that you're coming, then you don't turn up. Now we have to refund a bunch of people their money. So he actually had like a reason, a rationale for doing it. It wasn't the best thing, it wasn't convenient to people, but it wasn't like he just did it without any kind of thought whatsoever. And he stopped doing it to begin with. But of course, that's not going to satisfy other people. You know, you burn somebody badly enough once, and I guess they're not going to realize that this is a rite of passage. This has happened to all these other people. No. And especially when you drum up something the way that Joe Rogan with his prowess did, that's what happens at the end of the day. In terms of what Carlos could have done about it, I would say that part of the reason why it's gotten so out of hand is because, yeah, Carlos is not the evil person. And he said it before. He said, like, I know people who want to hurt people who talk badly about me, but I consistently tell them, no, don't do it. And I don't want to speak badly about anybody else. There's a tradition amongst comedians where you should talk other comedians. I don't want to be a part of that. And if you have someone that talks like that, it is all very noble. But as anyone who follows politics will know, when you talk badly about other people, that works. Smear campaigns in politics, and you know, we always act as if politics is, you know, that thing in government. That's where politics and politicians are. But that's not the case. Politics is in everything. Once there's human beings involved in anything, politics spans every single field. If it's science, if it's education, if it's government, if it's whatever field that you can think of, politics is involved in that field. Whether it's a company, whether it's Google, it's politics everywhere. And the idea is that smear campaigns will work. Wherever it is that you look, they're going to work. And if you are someone who's going to take the high road, you are going to lose. Because the other people who have no compunction about saying bad things about you, they're going to win because that wins and it works. And if George is never going to say anything bad about Joe Rogan, and he's never going to say anything bad about Ari or anybody else who accuses him, then he's going to lose. And he's in that position where that is what he believes in. He doesn't believe in shit talking other people, but at the same time, they don't have any problem with doing that about him. And, I've made other videos about this. If you don't have any teeth, if you don't have any horns, if you don't have any claws, you're going to lose. I remember when someone felt that they had something on me. They had a designation about who I am. And whenever they were angry or whatever it was, they would just, hey, you remember this? You remember this? You are not really that cool. Remember this? That's so disgusting, this thing. And I did not want to, I wanted to take the high road. I wanted to, hey, let's not talk about this anymore, whatever the case might be. But I'll tell you, I don't know that I ever came out and said it. Maybe I just tried to allude or insinuate, could you stop doing that kind of thing? But the one day, I said to that person, as they were saying that to me, I said, listen, if you continue to say this, maybe I will mention this other thing that I know about you, about dirt on you. And I've never heard the person bring up that topic with respect to myself ever again. That was years ago, and that person has never brought up that issue to me ever again, because the thing that I brought up for them, I guess it cut so deeply that they did not have to ever be reminded, hey, don't do this. It was a one and done. And you can see the same thing works with respect to Harvey Weinstein. There's a lot of people who I guess wanted to say things about Harvey Weinstein, but he had an Israeli company, as far as I know, a detective company that got dirt on the people that could potentially accuse him. And they understood, if you talk about me, then I will talk about you. And that was why Harvey Weinstein was able to keep going and doing what he was doing for however long. And at the end of the day, you can either shame the person by saying something like, hey, everything that you talk nicely to them and you have a resolution where there was one person who like I said in another video, I raised my voice at the person and they started bad talking me behind my back. And this other person, the head of the department, I just missed a meeting with them and he never spoke to me again in life. I maintained that distance from me. And there are instances like that. But if you don't want to talk in turn badly about the other person, if you don't get leverage on the other person, I am sure, as nice and as upfront as Joe Rogan presents himself to be, everybody has a closet. And if Carlos Mencia had taken a lower road and hit below the belt, I'm 100% sure that Joe Rogan would have ended his vendetta against him. I'm sure if he had done the same thing with George Lopez, same thing would have ended. But he doesn't know how to fight. And Joe Rogan does know how to fight because he's physically fought. And in some of these interviews, the only thing that Joe Rogan would bring up is the fact that Carlos Mencia was not actually Mexican, which he knows, but he's still, and it wasn't even his idea to change his name from Ned to Carlos, but he still throws that out there. There's the accusation that Carlos's name is not his real name. Joe wouldn't even look at his birth paper or any of his documentation to see. He just spit utter hate. He just spit utter hate with little to no evidence. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully this is the last of the Carlos Mencia pieces that I will do. But really, I think the world's really been unfair to him. But you know what? Like I've said before, 1 billion years from now, the earth is going to be consumed. And 1,000 years from now, 500 years, 100 years from now, nobody will know who Carlos Mencia was, or Joe Rogan, or any of these people. They will have thousands of their own celebrities, if they have celebrities at that point, millions even probably. They will probably not be interested in digging up any of this stuff. Carlos Mencia needs to make himself happy by lowering his expectations. He wanted to be the best comedian in the world, and as far as he tells it, and given his honesty on all these other matters, I believe it. He needs to just, he actually said, and he might have been half joking, maybe yay or nay, I don't know. He said that he loved stand-up more than his wife, more than his kids, but not the way that it was. But he's saying that it's getting better. Like there are fewer people, I guess, taunting him, and there are more people excited to see him. There are people who come up to him and say, I'm sorry that I ever believed any of the things that I heard about you. And you know what? I count myself amongst those people. Because when I saw him on Tiger Belly, I was like, oh my God, this joke thief, what is going on here? And I count myself amongst those people who is sorry that I ever believed any of the things that I heard about him. And again, if I need to say it, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000% sure that he is nothing that Joe Rogan, Carlos, George Lopez, any of these people put him out as being. And he might be the least of any of these people. They might have worse issues, legitimate issues, than he does. And but you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Hopefully he can forget about should and what could have been and just be happier and take his therapy, maybe exercise some more. So he's, what's his name? The guy from Tiger Belly, Bobby Lee, was saying, hey, I guess both of us have corona bodies. And yeah, they laughed about it. So maybe he needs to get over his corona body as well. And that's it for me. So feel free to like, dislike, delete, look at more of my stuff, subscribe, berate, any of those things in the same way that you would want for someone to do if this was something that you had created. Have a good one. Peace.